All
Okay,
right.
we're
Seems we
rolling.
are recording. So this is a resume review session. My name is Dewan Hamed. I work at Red Hat. So besides my work, I do resume review for students, new grads, and any professional who are trying to transition into software industry. So this service is completely free. And today I have with me my good friend Jake. Jake, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Dewan. I'm Jake Berger. I'm a friend of Dewan's. We both work at Red Hat together, and we were working at IBM together. I'm a technical writer. I enjoy writing. I love resumes. They're one of my favorite genres of writing. And I'm here to just give a second opinion. So Dewan will be doing the review, and I'll just be inserting my 2 cents here and there.
Awesome. Thanks, Jake. So typically what happens is student, new grad, or professionals, they send me their resumes over LinkedIn DM, and I used to do just a single LinkedIn post with the reviews. But recently with my own career move, I've been occupied. And as you can see, I have a bunch of resumes pending to review. So that's what I thought, let's do one recorded session and review all those resumes together. So some people prefer a public resume review, so their resume get a lot of coverage. But some people would like to remain anonymous, so that's why you'll see some resumes or it says anonymous. So people have taken their name out, let's say their email, GitHub profile, all those out, and that keeps their identity anonymous. All right, so let's
Cool.
start with the first one. So I have Aman Pandya.
Could you make
Um,
it a bit bigger, please?
Absolutely,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Yeah,
Let me. All right,
that's
is that okay?
perfect.
All right. So I actually for this one I added some comments beforehand. So let's go over what are the positives. So good job including the GitHub link. And I actually went to the GitHub before, and I see a pretty good activity on this person GitHub, like number of repositories, and the really what I liked was all those repositories has good readmes, good documentation. So it's not just one repository where I go, I don't know what this is about. It has good documentation. Um, what else? So great job listing these projects. So for example, Aman mentioned what are the specific tools he used, one line description, um, and he has some online certifications regarding machine learning, Python, and some achievements. So these are good. Let's focus on the things that could make this resume more awesome. So first thing, what I see here, the academic profile, like it's a table format. I don't think a table format is required. Um, and then you don't need to include your like education before your university, like say your high school. It's not too relevant to your prospective employer, and it also eats up a lot of space on your resume. And there's a debate of whether to put your education at the very top or at the very bottom of your resume. And I mean, it's an opinion, right? There's no strict rules. I think Jake was mentioning the same thing before. There's no strict rule, but from a number of opinions, what I see online says that if you have some experience, let's say any internship experience or projects, it's better to put those at the top and have the education at the very bottom. If you're completely fresher, you don't have any experience at all, then you put your education at the very top and then list the projects at the end. The other thing which I noted was you have listed a lot of activities, right? Like you don't need that many, because see, this is eating away all the spaces on your resume. And the reason I'm mentioning is with 15 to 20 seconds of time, you don't want to put pressure on that recruiting manager or a recruiter to go over so many things. You only want the relevant stuff that applies
Mhm.
to that particular job. So this, if you remove all these, um, this will help your resume get down to a single page. And then at the very end, your date of birth or well, hobbies, but address, like this is not very relevant. Jake, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I always tell people when they write resumes, it is very unique in the fact it has to stand out positively if someone just skims it, because recruiters, hiring managers, whoever's reading it the first go around, they're going to go through it pretty quickly. Okay. You're very, very seldom going to get a reader first time ever seeing your resume, really scrutinize it. So I like that Dewan was giving you tips on how to make it easier to read quickly, because you have a lot of great content here, just like Dewan was saying, but it is going to take a while to read through all of it. Um, with that said, if a prospective hiring manager really likes you, then he or she is going to be studying this resume pretty closely. So it has to both be written in a way that it can be skimmed and stand out positively, and then it can be scrutinized and stands out positively, which is why I like them, because it really flexes a lot of good writing muscle. So I agree with the making it more skimmable, as I would say. Same thing with the education and professional experience that Dewan was saying. I mean, a resume, it tells us about you, it tells us your experience, it tells your story. So if you're like me, when I graduated college, I didn't have much work experience. My education was on top. I talked about specific projects I was doing. And then the more work experience I gained, the less prominence my education was given. Now my education is just like, the degree I got and the year I got it and where I graduated from. And that's kind of everybody. The more work experience you get, obviously, the more prominent that becomes on your resume. What I would advise, if you would go back up to the top, Dewan, the objective or mission statement, it was, okay, career objective. This is just a suggestion. Resumes tend to stand out better if they're tailored to the specific position. So I think this career objective is great for you as you think about what career you want. But as you send this out to companies, I would instead tailor it to that specific company and maybe put simply objective. And then you could do like, I look forward to work in name of company where I can best utilize my technical problem solving and communication skills. Again, it will just make it stand out easily, specifically when people skim through it quickly the first time.
Those are great points, Jake, and absolutely, it's essential to customize the resume. And then even with career objective or profile summary, or however you name this top section, uh, there are different opinions. Some people they prefer it to leave out. Some people prefer it to be there. But if you keep it, it's ideal that it's an executive summary of your resume, and you're trying to sell yourself to that company. So focus on that company, as Jake mentioned, rather than focusing on yourself. And absolutely, like, if you have some technical skills, why you are the correct person or the right person for that job. Maybe you have some machine learning expertise, some DevOps skills. Have those mentioned in these two lines, rather than being very, very generic, and 100% like include the company name. That really helps out. So since this was the first resume, we took a lot of time to really go deep and discuss a lot. But for the next ones, probably will take just a minute, just like a typical recruiter would do.
Mhm.
All right, so let's go to the, actually this one was an old resume, so I'll go with the second one, anonymous resume 2. So looking at that, let's go over the positives first. I can look at the experience. This person has experience as a software dev, and the the descriptions are good. So they mentioned that what kind of tools they use, what they achieve, how they basically perform their roles. I can understand, I can quickly see that they have expertise with AWS, which for a number of software positions, it's really helpful to have one or more cloud specific skills. On the right, I can quickly glance over the skills that person worked on with Python, Java, Git, Linux, AWS, and I can see that this person took part in some hackathon or competitions, and a project. So, and the last thing is it's a single page resume. It's a simple format, so these are great. What could be better is When I look at this resume, it seems that this person had a lot of information, but really wanted to crunch everything down into a single page. And that's why I can probably see like the font was maybe made one font smaller, and then the page, the spacing is not that great. So I'd advise to like make this resume a bit more readable with proper page spacing between the lines. I'll be a bit picky about PSQL right here in the scales. Let me try to make it a bit bigger. Um, so in I don't know if PSQL goes with Python and Java, which are general purpose programming languages, and PSQL could be a query language. I'm just being picky here because if you're applying for a software related job, the recruiter or the manager would might be a bit picky here as well. Um, Again, I'm pretty sure because this was an anonymous resume, the person didn't include the GitHub link, so
Mm.
I couldn't go a bit deep. But yeah, I hope that in the actual resume there will be the GitHub link. How about you, Jake?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything. Talking about, we didn't mention this to the first resume, but as you're talking about how there's a lot of good information here, and it seemed like they wanted to put everything on here, a good way to maybe not cut anything, but to make it easier to read and to shorten the language is to add quantifiable numbers whenever possible. It makes it easy to stand out. It makes you sound more impressive. I shouldn't say that. It actually more adequately depicts how impressive you are. And it tightens the language a bit. So, kind of this first section here, if you scroll up these first couple of bullet points. So, looking at this first bullet point under the delivery, it says developed various Flask-based applications. Well, let's say if you develop 12 Flask-based applications, that's easier for me to wrap my head around. Okay, 12
Hmm.
Flask-based applications. And then I see down here you say solved various data engineering problems. Um, could you give us an estimate of how many problems you solved? You then have worked on AWS SageMaker to train and deploy ML models with endpoints. How many models, you know? I saw kind of examples of these all throughout. You'd be surprised how often we can throw numbers in. I'm not saying you can always do it, and I'm not saying it always makes sense, but you can do it pretty often, and that will tighten the language so it doesn't feel quite as overwhelming to the reader, and it will also make it be easier to be skimmed upon that initial reading by that recruiter. And I keep going back to that because, as I said, it's very seldom how the very first time somebody reads your resume, they're going to take even 5 minutes on it. You know, they skim through it pretty quickly. And these numbers help them think like, wow, this person's really impressive because they developed like, 12 applications. They've worked with X amount of code and they've worked with on a team with X amount of people. It's just a way to make them very quickly and easily understand your credentials and your work experience.
Those are great points, Jake. And I'll quickly go to LinkedIn because
Yeah.
I can totally relate to what you just mentioned. And I saw a profile very recently. It's Brad McLee. So he was the VP and GM of Red Hat. Recently moved to AWS. But one thing I really liked in his job descriptions, it completely echoes
Mm-hmm.
what you made. So 172% increase in number of Red Hat developer tools, 33% increase in registered users. So like it's quantifying what was accomplished, right? It's a key point, regardless of if you're a student, new grad, or a veteran with 20 years of experience.
Yep.
It really helps. Thank you, Jake.
Yeah, of course. And just to kind of pound that example, imagine if he just said increased, and he didn't get that percentage boost. We would nowhere be nearly as impressed. So the same goes for you. Give us those numbers, and we'll be even more thoroughly impressed with you.
Thank you. And that's a wrap for today's resume review. Next week, we'll come back with some more resume review. Meanwhile, if you have any question, please DM me with those questions. Take care and all the best with your career.